am here with Sam Kim, the co-founder or founding partner of Umbrella Network. How's it going, Sam?
Great. Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So, before we get into what Umbrella Network is doing, let's hear a little bit about you. Everybody loves crypto origin stories. So, how did you get into this space and what's your background?
Yeah, so I've been in the technology startup space for most of my career. Back in 2013, I started a mobile ad tech company and had one of those like really brilliant guys whose productivity just fell off a cliff. And all he really wanted to do was talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. I mean, we've all had one of those guys in our lives or women in our lives, right? And but he was such a brilliant guy in the beginning that when I saw his productivity fall off, I wanted to dig in and learn a little bit more why. And so a couple of us attended a meetup with him, and we got to the meetup, and it was just packed. Right, the room was packed. It was a small room, packed shoulder to shoulder. Really diverse audience. Technologists, conspiracy theorists to libertarians and finance people. And the energy was just palpable. Like you could really just see how passionate everybody was about this thing called Bitcoin that I'd never heard of until then. So following the meeting, I did some more research, and the power of decentralization was real. Like I totally understood it. I loved it. But I didn't really see a career for myself there. I was too busy. I just launched a mobile ad tech company. The company is now called Gimbal, doing quite well, and it was growing back then. And I always kind of just put it in the back of my mind that this Bitcoin thing was kind of cool, right? Fast forward to, I believe, 2016, 2017-ish, with Ethereum coming on the scene, and a different colleague of mine named Miguel introduced me to kind of how smart contracts work. And we immediately saw that it could solve a lot of the problems that we experience in digital advertising. Mainly, like there's no transparency at all in digital advertising. Like you spend X number of dollars and you'd have no idea where it went. It just really went into the ether. And so we thought that this was an incredible way to create a shared ledger for the industry. And that's when we started Lucidity, right? Lucidity was founded back in 2017 to use the blockchain, the shared ledger, to create a standard by which we can trade digital ads in that ecosystem. And in order to do that, we had to build this layer 2 technology in order to handle digital advertising scale. And basically what we did was create a Merkle tree, which for those that aren't that familiar with Merkle trees, it looks like a binary tree, where it's a very efficient way to store data. And then we roll that up and anchor that onto the blockchain. And so that was really my entry into both kind of the theory and idea of decentralization and blockchain to actually transitioning into a career where I went from, in an industry that I know quite well from having been in it for many years, from having co-founded, Gimbal, to using that technology that I was so fascinated with before and applying it in an arena that I was familiar with, that I was passionate about, and that, where there were a lot of frustrations from the lack of transparency, from the amount of fraud that was out there in digital advertising. And so, yeah, that was my entry into crypto and blockchain.
Nice, nice. And I love how you mentioned the one nutty Bitcoiner kind of person that's always just basically a vacuum bringing people into the space, and that it is in a way a gateway in, because you start learning about the technology that's underlying it, and it's a beautiful thing once it kind of, that light bulb goes off and you start learning about smart contracts and all the things that are being built today. So that's a great segue into what is Umbrella Network. What are you guys trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so Umbrella Network is a community-owned, decentralized layer 2 Oracle. And so blockchain developers today, blockchain applications aren't able to pull data directly from APIs as traditional applications would, right? So if you're in the traditional application development world, you need data. Generally, you go to an API and get that data. Well, with smart contracts, they can't really just access data that way. They need deterministic data. And so oracles provide that tool of onboarding data from the traditional sources via an API, going through a consensus mechanism and making that data available on the blockchain for all of the incredible application developers out there today. And the key is that we need to do it both in a secure way, where that data does not get manipulated during that process, and we can be absolutely certain that it's not subject to manipulation, because the implications of manipulated data on a smart contract are quite high. And we've seen that with so many of the what you call kind of flash loan and Oracle hacks that we've seen in our industry. The second part of it is that it needs to be scalable and the data needs to be lively, right? It needs to be like current and accurate. So if you think about the original oracles, they tended to write one piece of data per blockchain transaction. And when you're talking about gas where they are today, with Ethereum prices where they are today, that becomes really expensive. That becomes a really valuable and expensive piece of data. And so you're not going to update that data very frequently, nor are you going to support a whole bunch of different types of data, because only so much data justifies that kind of price point. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is we use the same kind of underlying technology that we built at Lucidity, which is that Merkle tree that allows us to aggregate thousands and thousands of pieces of data into a single blockchain transaction, right? And so we're holding that data off chain, but we're anchoring it on chain. And we give on chain cryptographic proof, so you can be confident that the data that you're using is what was agreed to during consensus. And so what that allows us to do is drive the cost of on-chain data dramatically lower, like drastically lower. So for one blockchain transaction, instead of a one-to-one relationship, we are doing thousands of pieces of data to one. To be precise, right now we've onboarded 750 pieces of data currently, but we're going to be doubling and tripling that every week. We're just adding more and more data. And all that does is actually drive down the cost per data. And so with that really low cost data, we're able to support far richer types. We're able to update it more frequently and make sure that blockchain application developers get the most accurate, most current, and most secure data that's available in the market.
Got it. And when I was digging around on the site, I was going through some of the information there. And I think with examples like this, or with projects like this, examples and use cases are a great way of describing it to someone out there that's maybe new to the space, that hasn't really developed applications in the past. But can you give us maybe one or two examples of how this would be, used in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at the data that's available today, as an example, the large crypto pairs are pretty well supported, right? So if you look at the top 10, 20 cryptocurrencies, the prices are fairly accurate. They're updated with a reasonable amount of they're updated reasonably frequently. But as you go down that list on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap, it gets less and less support. By the time you're in the top 200 cryptocurrencies, which generally still have a very large market cap, like there's almost no support. And if there is, the data is updated maybe once a day. And so imagine you're an application developer and you're using data that's almost 24 hours old. That limits what you can do, right? So because of our architecture, we're able to support nearly all of the cryptocurrencies out there, not just the top 84. We're doing the top 750, and so now you can do things with kind of the mid cap, if you want to call it that, right? Mid cap assets that you're able to do today with the top 10, 20, 30 cryptocurrencies, right? Whether it's creating a lending platform, whether it's a flash loan, whatever it is, right? Using it as collateral or so forth. Other things that allows you to do are things like indexes. Right? So I said index is a good example because you're thinking of something like the equivalent of the S&P 500 for our industry, and that means that every time you have to run the price of that index, you're pulling 500 pieces of data, right? That's very, very expensive in the current Oracle architecture world. Whereas with us, we're able to take all of that 500 and create the calculated value for you in a very transparent way, because we're just able to support more pieces of data. That's another example of where we're going. And then things like calculated values, like time-weighted average pricing of different maturities and lengths, volume-weighted averages, because when you have very volatile token prices like you do in our industry, you want to use some way to smooth that out a little bit so that you're not subject to these little whims, like small movements, small trades that have a disproportionate effect on the price. So those are the types of things that we're working on. We're really excited about, and we think that's going to help a lot drive this industry forward.
Yeah, yeah, and just even with things like DeFi, I've noticed that Uniswap, will have a figure on there that says like this will be this impactful on the price. If this trade is executed, it'll be this impactful. So I can see how real time updates of these top 750 tokens would really bring a lot more people that are interested in, let's say, high frequency style trading and things like that. If they're actually able to see real time what's going on instead of a once a day, like you said, update, that makes perfect sense. So in terms of the team, how big are you guys and what stage are you at? And I assume that it's somewhat live and maybe you're getting some examples of projects using it.
Yeah, so we started this back in October 2020, and rolled out, with a really small team. And I was the only one that wasn't writing code every single day initially. And we rolled out our kind of alpha or demo app back in November, probably late November. We did our IDO on February 9th on PokerStarter, and I was still the only non-engineer at that time, right? Because we are very much a product-driven company, a project. Marketing and all the other in operations, all of that fell on my shoulders, and but we always wanted to keep our eye and focus on the product. What that allowed us to do is get out to basically a public test net 5 weeks after our IDO, which if for a product as large as an Oracle, as complex as an Oracle, I believe that's a pretty significant achievement. And as to give you a sense, like there's only a few Oracles out there that are at the same stage that we are, and you can count them on your hands, and you're on one hand. The people driving us behind that, that we are now at around 18 with a couple more people joining us soon. Still very much an engineering and product focused team, but we are rounding out the commercial team as well, because we do need to do additional marketing. We are growing the business development team as well, and of course operations. And so we're 18, shortly to be 20, predominantly engineers still, and looking to grow aggressively.
Cool. Very exciting. What was it like launching on PokerStarter? I've heard a lot of buzz about it. I've seen various different projects, but what was that like for you guys?
People described it to me before we went on the process, but there's just no way to really appreciate, understand what that process is like until you go through it. I mean, it's an incredible community of super enthusiastic crypto traders, experts, technologists, right? Just really diverse. They run, all around the globe. So you're on 24/7. and they are really passionate about the technology and what you're doing. And so, it was a high bar that they set for us, and we did our best. And we had incredible results. Like the whitelisting process, we have far more applications than we would have ever imagined. That was going through that and trying to figure out who, the whitelisting application process was challenging. The result was incredible. I mean, the amount of interest and trading volume we had on that first day, while I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, I mean, it exceeded our expectations by many, many fold. It was exhausting, but I mean, it was fun, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that like I was excited to do once, and we'll keep it at once.
Well said. Well said. So outside of, Umbrella Network as being your main focus right now, I like talking to very technically advanced guys like yourself, Sam. And what are you excited about? Because I think that there's so many brilliant people in this space, like we just talked about with Polka Starter and things like that. And there's so much movement in crypto at large.
Yeah.
What are you, personally looking forward to and excited about over the next couple of years here in crypto?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this kind of reminds me of like back in 2012 when I first got into mobile. At that time, it was still a 3G world. Um, and so the data was limited, bandwidth was slow. And so the applications that you had were pretty naive and simple, right? The kind of games you could play were, you know, kind of like Frogger level, right? But with the rollout of LTE and AWS really making data, much cheaper, storage cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
you saw this like explosion of innovation, right? I remember when I first saw Uber app, and I thought to myself, how is this going to work on my cell phone? There's just not enough. It's going to be so slow, et cetera, et cetera. But when you saw that as LTE emerged and grew, as data kept getting cheaper and cheaper, uh, you know, more and more apps were taking advantage of that combination. You saw the Yelps and I mean, just name it. How many apps do I have on my phone these days? And then you have people playing games like PUBG and Fortnite on their phone. I mean, I could never have imagined that back in 2012, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're at a similar kind of time frame today when it comes to blockchain, right? We had Ethereum 1.0, which is, admitted, like I am a very big fan of Ethereum, but having said that, it is slow and expensive. But we're seeing emerging new chains, including ETH 2.0. You're seeing Binance Smart Chain showing just the amount of passionate interest there is behind BSC because of their low gas costs. You're seeing the emergence of new chains like Polkadot coming online.
Mm-hmm.
We're excited about Solana, Cardano, Avalanche. I mean, obviously, we have a partnership with Elrond, so we are incredibly enthusiastic about them as well. So we have all these different ways to expand the bandwidth, right? And I think what the missing piece now is the data. That's where oracles such as ourselves, and there are others, right, tackling the same challenge. And I think the oracle market is going to be massive, where it's not going to be a single winner take all. There's going to be many of us serving different developer needs. So I think that combination again of increased bandwidth with these new chains, along with the lower cost data storage through the oracles, we're going to see. It's going to be exciting to see what the application developers come up with, right? What's the equivalent of Uber and Yelp or PUBG and Fortnite for our industry, right? I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of exciting movement and a lot of brilliant minds in the space. So gone over your background, everything about Umbrella Network and what you're excited about. What's next for Umbrella Network over the next 12, 24 months? Obviously you're hiring, you're growing really quickly. What's next for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty consistent with what we've always done, which is really focus on the product, right? It's going to be a product-driven project. And that for us, that means right now moving beyond. So right now it means increasing the number of validators on our network. Right, we have 3 external validators right now. We just announced the most recent one, which is Huobi joining us as a validator, which we're incredibly excited about, because these guys are the ones that are validating the data. They're providing the actual hash power.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really excited about that. Getting more developers integrated into our platform, improving the accessibility of our platform, and then driving that over to mainnet on Ethereum, as well as supporting additional chains. Right, the first one we'll be supporting will be Binance Smart Chain. We'll be doing that fairly soon, and then figuring out the strategies and rolling out the product to support Polkadot, Solana, and all the others as we come on chain. And then really after that is really getting to understand what additional data the market wants, what developers want, and making sure that we're providing that to them in the safest, lowest cost way possible.
Got it. Got it. Well, those are all the questions I have for you. Where can people go and learn more about Umbrella Network?
Yeah, come check us out on our website, www.und.network. Join us on Telegram, Twitter. We're kind of in also social media. And we recently just launched our ambassador program. And so we're looking forward to build a global network of ambassadors to represent Umbrella and to help build our community.
Great. Great. Well, that's all I have. Wherever you guys are listening, check out the links in the show notes to everything that Sam just mentioned. But once again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Steve.